Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's Wednesday Wisdom guest, but first, let's hear from our podcast sponsors. We want to thank Final Forms for their support of Wednesday Wisdom and the Educational AD Podcast. Final Forms is the industry leader in registration, but you have to know this. Final Forms is more than just registration and forms. Final Forms is a team, it's technology, and it's a service that serves schools in the areas of compliance, communication, and even provides risk management solutions. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility and reminders for parents about policies, physicals, and all the forms associated with athletics. Final Forms can help with team communication, with attendance, and even certification management for your coaches. For ADs, Final Forms can help with eligibility, with reports, and all the roster information that comes across your desk. And it does this with secure language translation and ADA compliance. You know, it's time for you to talk with a team that's walked in your shoes to take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you and your program. Go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake and talk to the folks at Final Forms. We also want to thank Violet Defense. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products or if you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and the experience you need. Go to violetdefense.com for more information about their great products. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive for their support. You know, it's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year, while also creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call them at 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com and see exactly what their fantastic products can do for you. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they are on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They've got a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles, along with an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Or to learn more and get started with your digital Wall of Fame tribute, call them at 614-981-3589, or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to thank Huddle. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 180,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, use Huddle to help their teams and athletes play at the highest levels. Huddle is the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. Of course, there's analytics, but they've got a whole lot more. Huddle's also built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high schools and colleges. And even the pros are using Huddle to help their teams play at the highest level. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, along with your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches of the teams you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and your school and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to say thank you to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can find out more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your program by going to hometownticketing.com. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. Once again, that's Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. And we want to say thank you to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director Toolbox segment of our podcast. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack also connects you with the 95% of the parents and the student athletes that really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the pros at Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack and let them show you how to take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD podcast. Joining us today is a very good friend, Suzanne Vick. Suzanne is a certified master athletic administrator. She's the director of athletics at Curtis High School in the great state of Washington. Suzanne and I met virtually at the NADC virtual conference, over a year ago, and really have come to admire her and also appreciate her friendship. She does a fantastic job. We don't have time to go into all the things that she has done for her school and their district, but I will mention this. They're still riding high from multiple state championships this year, the swimming team, and most recently the boys basketball team. I'm going to quit talking and let her share because she's got a great episode today. Suzanne Vick, welcome back to Wednesday Wisdom.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here, and I just appreciate you and the guidance and leadership you've offered me.
Okay. Well, you and I were talking before we got started, and I know you've got a special Wednesday Wisdom for us, so let's go and get started.
Yeah, you bet. So today, I really wanted to talk about the impact of a coach. Just a little over a month ago, the basketball team, we just won a state title. We lost a super special friend. We call him Coach Will. Mark Williams was a longtime coach at Fife High School, Lincoln High School, and then most recently at Curtis High School. And he lost his battle with cancer. And he was really impactful. I got to witness him being a coach for my own kids, my older two children, and then also as an athletic director. And I got to really witness something special. But how this episode itself kind of started to form was the day after he passed. Our wrestling team was at the state tournament at the Tacoma Dome, and I was able to talk to Coach Will on Friday. And that day he passed, and we were playing on Saturday in the West Central District tournament, and really started this idea of how are we going to honor Coach Will? It's the last time we're going to be in our gym this year. And how are we going to honor Coach Will? And could we pull something off in less than 24 hours to really honor him? And we did. And the word got out. And to see the amount of people that showed up to honor Coach Will really brought my headspace to the spot of how impactful a coach can be, not only positively, but negatively. So Coach Will was just Coach Will. He was unbelievable. We have a coach here in our program, and our basketball coach who just won the state title. He's pretty tough. He's tough. and he has super duper high expectations. And I watched one of our athletes at the end of that game jump into his arms and say, "I love you, coach." And I was like, what? Like, it was such an emotional, awesome moment, because tough and love, in my opinion, are two things that really help a coach be really impactful. When I was a senior in high school, my volleyball team, we had 6 girls try out for the team. 6. There could have been 36 on the team, but 6 girls tried out. And although that coach was very good for me personally in my skill development, because he was tough, he kind of missed some elements of how to impact people positively. Otherwise, we would have had more than 6 girls turn out. There's some identifiers that can lead you to a place of really not having a real positive impact. That was something that happened to me. And then I see this, I've seen it in my own coaching. I've seen it in my athletic life, but also as an AD, is the transactional coach that uses kids for their benefit, almost like a credit card, where you're my best athlete, so I'm gonna treat you well. You're my 12th man, so you really don't have that much value to me. I think those are some things that you got to look at what's going on to make sure that every impact you have is positive, but it doesn't mean that you just let everything go. There's this really unique balance. So I kind of came up with an acronym for the word impact. And it was interesting as I was going through these letters. You could have just done so many different words, because coaches do so much. They're so impactful. But the biggest one for me is intentionality. And I put this, one of the first slides that I have on my coaches training, is that intentional means to be done by design. And every single thing coaches do, they should be able to justify it, but they should also have it designed. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Not just for wins and losses, but how are you doing it in terms of relationship with your kids, discipline, conditioning? Everything should be intentional. The M, mentor. I think the word mentor can mean a lot of things, but one thing that Coach Will did for my kids is that he was just there. He was a listening ear. He never overstepped his bounds of where he should stay as a coach, but he was always there, always spurring them on to greatness. The P, this one's really big, and I don't think coaches get this enough, is that they have to realize they're in a position of power. A lot of times coaches will say, well, why don't they just come talk to me? Why don't they just come tell me? But they don't realize how powerful that position is and how scary it would be for a kid. I tell my athletes all the time, like, if you need me to help you go have that conversation, I'll do that with you. I'll let you talk, but I will be there as your support, because it is very scary for a kid to have a conversation with their coach, even though, I don't see retaliation as a thing. That's just what they feel. That's the space that kids feel, but that position of power needs to be made aware, so coaches can start to get into the true mentorship of an athlete, skill, and all the emotional stuff that goes with that. The A would be for awareness. One of the things I tell my coaches and like in my coaches meeting is, you've got to be aware of what's going on. And if that's the case, you got to go to the drinking fountain. You got to walk by the drinking fountain when kids are talking. What's going on? Be a listening ear. A lot of times you watch coaches, when they say, hey, I'll go get a drink, the coaches will huddle because they want to know what they're going to do next. What's the next step based on what's going on? But if you really want to know your kids and what's going on, somebody's got to go by the drinking fountain. Communication, the C, I think kids fear and they stress the unknown. And it's not that hard to talk. It's not that hard to tell kids what's going on. and you don't have to change your mind. The communication doesn't mean that you're going to do something different. It just makes people aware. I had a coach, former coach, just didn't start a kid, started all season and had a reason for it, but the kid didn't know what the reason was. And it would have been really easy to just say, hey, you're not starting today because that communication didn't happen, there was a lot of communication that happened after the fact. And he was 100% justified. It was 100% what should have happened. And if he had just had a little bit of a conversation, not that you have to justify every single start, but sometimes just being aware of what communication needs to take place to limit the other conversations that will have to happen is important. And then lastly is the T. And this one I think is really important, is speak the truth in love. A lot of times I have coaches that don't like conflict, or I've seen coaches that don't like conflict. So instead of being truthful, they just kind of, well, if you just get a little bit better at this, and if you just if you could, during practice, if the reality is that kid's probably not going to start, it's okay to say that. And really just being truthful is really important, because I think kids appreciate the truth, even though at the moment it might be hard. So that's my kind of the impact piece. I think the common coaching mistakes that I see is coaches are just unaware of their impact. They're just unaware. And I want them to be aware. They're so powerful. I read something in a Sports Illustrated article that said that the coach is the most impactful person in a kid's life, even more so than their parents. That's a big impact. You can really positively make a change. You can also negatively impact somebody for the rest of their lives. I think coaches could or should be more aware of their blind spots. And to do that, you have to ask the question. You have to have this feedback loop of, what's going on? What are my blind spots? What am I not aware of? What problems consistently come up? I think is important. The transactional piece, I hear that a lot from my colleagues. My coaches only take care of the best athletes. When I first got this job, Brandon Bakke, he's now the principal at Fife High School, said to me, you'll know the impact of your coaching based on the wedding invitations you get later. It's just how much you impact them more than just the game, more than just the sport. And then just because you need to be so aware of that, there's some damage. There's some damage that can be done by coaches that's irreversible. My coach from high school, I'm better because of him. I was a better coach because of him, but I actually chose to do the opposite of what he did. That's the way I had to go about it. And that's unfortunate. He made me tough. He made me a better volleyball player, but some of the things that he did, they're irreversible. You cannot take it back. So that was pretty, it really makes me think, like, what do you want to be? You want to be that, or you want to be a Coach Will? Somebody that just everybody tells stories about, stories after stories after stories. So this might be a good time. Take a little break. I know you've got some people you need to honor.
Boy, you really, you had me going there. Probably saw me scribbling down notes. Love the impact acronym. Very cool stuff. If you don't mind, I'm probably going to steal some of that for one of my presentations. And again, as you're talking about, your own career as a player and your high school coach, and again, I think we look back, we had great coaches and they did what they did at the time. I look at myself. I know I wasn't as, let's say, as hard-nosed as my high school coaches were, who were great coaches. But in looking back, I think I could have done a much better job of, coaching the kids and bringing more, heart to it. So appreciate you sharing that.
I think sometimes
go ahead.
I think sometimes people think that to love kids means that you have to sacrifice the quality. And that's not what I'm saying.
No, you're absolutely right. We are going to take a quick break. For our listeners, we're got Suzanne Vick. She's the athletic director at Curtis High School up in Tacoma, Washington. Just a really one of our top leaders in the profession. When we come back, I want you to take us on a little deeper dive into what made Coach Will so special, and maybe we can glean some wisdom from his techniques as well as you. So please stay with us. This is Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD podcast. We'll be right back with Suzanne Vick. We want to thank Final Forms for their support of Wednesday Wisdom and the Educational AD podcast. You know, Final Forms is the industry leader in athletic registration, but you need to know this. Final Forms is more than just registration. It's a team, it's technology, and it's a service that can help schools in areas like compliance, communication, and even risk management. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with mobile accessibility and has reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and about all the forms that go along with being an athlete. Final Forms can also help with team communication, with attendance, and even certification management for coaches. And for ADs, Final Forms can help with eligibility, can help with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. And it does this with secure language translation and ADA compliance. You know, it's time for you to talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake and get started and become a member of the Final Forms team. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they are on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They have a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles and an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Or to learn more and get started with your digital Wall of Fame tribute, give them a call at 614-981-3589, or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We're visiting today with Suzanne Vick, a good friend and the athletic director at Curtis High School in Tacoma, Washington. Suzanne, you were going to share with us some of the things that you feel made Coach Will so very special to your program and your kids. So what about him made him such an impactful coach?
Well, the first thing is that he was tough. Like, he was tough as nails. You didn't ever get away with anything. You were going to do it right. You're going to do it perfect. Not some of the time, but all of the time. He knew the game inside and out. So the respect that he commanded from his athletes was super high because he knew the game. And if he was telling you something, you were actually wrong. And so you just have to, you just gotta be quiet on that one. His balance of love and discipline with a little bit of comedy in him was pretty special. So I'll give you an example. My son, Jace, he was pretty compliant. He wanted to do what was right. And so Coach Will would tell him something and he'd go like this. He'd just give him double thumbs up instead of saying, yes, coach, or he's like this. And he's like, if you don't start doing what I tell you to do, I'm gonna cut your fingers off. It's just this little bit of comedy. Pretty sure his fingers were safe, but it was like, I'm talking and you're going to do what I'm asking you to do. So the command of respect was pretty high. He was incredibly empathetic. Kids that were struggling, kids that had issues, kids that just needed something outside of the game. He was always a great listening ear. He could sense if something was wrong. So he was very aware of what was going on. He accepted all of his athletes, every single one of them, from the number 1 to the number 32 And the number one was not any more special. If the number one didn't touch the line, he was going to go run again. If the number 32 didn't, he'd have the exact same punishment. So he treated people with this uncanny fairness that you don't always see in sports anymore. A lot of times your elite athletes are getting special privileges and special things. Coach Will had none of it. He's like, I'm going to push you as hard, maybe even harder than everybody else. He always spoke the truth in love. So he did not ever take a minute to not be truthful. He didn't sugarcoat. That wasn't a thing that Coach Will did ever. He told you exactly what you needed to hear, and it might be hard, but he always did it in love. There was nothing that seemed to be an accident in Coach Will's life. He did everything intentionally, and he was just so good, so kind, and he just did everything on purpose, from the words he said when you got there to the end. This man fought an incredible fight of cancer. Ultimately it got him, but even just watching his example as he went through that was shining. It was a shining star for those around him. And he believed in every single kid, a C team kid, a JV kid, a varsity kid. He believed in them all because he knew that his job was to do his best to turn these kids into great men. So that was the special. Coach Will is we're forever changed. I'm forever changed. My kids are forever changed, and watching his service, a lot of people that were forever changed by him.
Oh no, absolutely. I can understand, why, again, you and I talked about this, that, it's a very special person, and, going to be tough to move on. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Obviously, Coach Will had a big presence in your district. Are there any plans, to, honor him, in a way at your school, your campus, anything that y'all have talked about so far?
But like I said, we did an honoring at our school the night after he passed. That was pretty special. We don't have any plans right now, other than I know his the championship rings have not been ordered yet, but they are being designed, and inside the ring design says "Turn it up, Coach Will." That was his thing, to always turn it up. So he was with us. Once he passed, that became the I honestly believe that little extra something brought us to the end and brought us to the championship. And so he's going to be honored in that way for sure. And I'm not sure what else in the future.
Oh, what a great idea. Something's going to be with those kids and the coaches, and, whoever, gets that ring, it's going to be with them for the rest of their life. Very,
and I know we will have some on order for Coach's wife, Julie, and family as well.
Very good stuff. Always leading, Suzanne. If one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, and listeners, I certainly encourage you to do so. As I said at the start of the show, Suzanne has done some incredible things for her school and for her district area. What's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Probably best through my email, and that's S as in Sam, Vick, V as in Victor, ICK at upsd83.org, and that's stands for University Place School District.org, upsd.org.
Okay. And that information is also on the NIAAA portal if you happen to make it there. And Suzanne is also very active on Twitter. Does a great job.
At our Viking Nation, you can always find things there. I'm trying to take a little break. It's spring break for us, so taking a little social media break while we're doing that is good. I know we were going to talk a little bit about hiring for impact and coaching coaches for impact. Do we want to go that direction, or you need a break?
No, absolutely. I wanted to make sure we got that contact information in there. So again, we recently did an episode on the regular podcast where we had some ADs talk about things they look for on resumes, on the letter, as well as, questions and comments during the interview. But let's take a little more of a laser focus, as you're, looking for, that final candidate, those impactful things. What are some things that you think are important for ADs to look for?
Yeah, these are really specific to the impact the coach might have in your program. Other questions aside, game knowledge aside, if your coach has got to know the sport, they got to know it well, and they got to know it so that they can teach it. So set that all aside. I think that the biggest thing is interview questions and making sure those are intentionally designed to get the results you're looking for. One of the things that when I think you got to know what you want, what's more important, if you're going to balance this or that, kids' lives are really important. And so the impact for me on how that coach is going to be with our children is really important. I think how do you define success in your program is one that really can take you to a different place. Because if the only answer is wins and losses, then we're probably not going to hire that person. Now, wins are great, but there's more to success on that. The other is really, I ask a question almost always on how does your coaching line up with our vision, which then shows me that they've done a little research if they know what our vision is. But that they got to line up with exactly where we're heading, where we're guided, and that's really important. And then really trying to come up with like how high is that person's emotional IQ? How high are they on a level of emotional intelligence? Because if you got somebody that is high emotional IQ, that can really minimize the issues you're going to have, because they are aware of situations that are going to come up before they're even there. So those kind of things are real important to me. Beyond the other, how are you going to handle parents, and how, there's a lot of those that are, everybody kind of asks, got to know the sport, but really trying to figure out how you're going to impact our kids is important.
Yeah. It's so important, I think, to communicate those concepts during the interview. You don't want to have that coach in place, for a season or multiple seasons, and then realize that, you're at opposite ends of the spectrum on whatever your philosophy is. And it's not, right, wrong, good or bad, but you want to be on the same page, and, asking those questions, making those points clear during the interview process can alleviate, those problems later down the road. Okay.
Well, and it's not fair to the candidate. It's not fair that you're not giving them exactly what would be expecting from them if they get hired. Mm-hmm. I just had a conversation with a good friend of mine, athletic director, about an interview. And I said, he was asking me, what about this? And what about that? And I said, you got to trust your process. He's like, you're right. You got to trust your process, and that will get you to the coaches that you need to have in your program.
No, absolutely. Okay. And I use this phrase all the time. I think I might have already said it. It's not right, wrong, good or bad. It's just how you roll as a school, as a district. And you're absolutely right. It's not fair to that coach to bring them on board if their philosophy is different, and it's going to be a struggle for them to come on board to yours. Very cool stuff.
For sure. And then the last thing I would say, past the hiring for impact, is how do you coach your coaches to be impactful? The coaches that, we run 27 programs, most have assistant coaches. That's a lot of coaches. And how do you train them, coach them to be impactful? All of us are different. You said that before. We're going to be different. We're going to act different. But ultimately, your impact has to be positive. Because if it's not, then you're just not doing right by kids. And so one is that I really challenge my coaches to have a growth mindset, always getting better. What are you reading? Hey, I'm reading this book. What are you reading? How's that impacting your team? really challenging them to a feedback loop. Reflect, be intentional, reflect, be intentional, reflect, be intentional, because habits are hard. I'm reading the book Atomic Habits right now, and it's like we have to be intentional if we want to change something, because we're such creatures of habit. And so really, who's your feedback person? I would prefer it not be me. I challenge my coaches, go talk to the coach that's really good at that. One of the things I'm going to do the next, probably not next Friday, but the Friday after, we're going to start 4 Fridays. We're going to do coffee at 6 in the morning. And I'm going to bring in my coaches that are really good at organization. I'm going to bring my coaches in that are really good at getting, like, literally making lemonade out of lemons. Like the coaches that are able to get their kids beyond where they're at, the coaches that really have a high emotional IQ that impact kids for positive change. We're just going to do a little coffee hour over the next 4 weeks. Pretty excited about that coming up. And then really helping coaches understand that kids will never tell you. And so you have to provide a tool for them to get the information that they need. And that might be anonymous survey. It might be a piece of paper. Hey, I want you to write out what's going on. I've done lots of, like, here's what's going on in the week. What's your struggle? What's your favorite thing going on right now? And what's your biggest struggle? You can get some information, find out what's going on inside your program. Those are just kind of a couple things. In conclusion to this whole thing is that the receiver is the measure of the impact. The coach is not the measure of the impact. The receiver is the measure of the impact. And so really, we do what we do to the best of our ability, but the receiver is the one that takes it all in. And we have to be aware of how it's coming in and how it's impacting them, because they're the ones that are the measure of it. Coach Will was, he had a huge impact. That we were the receivers sitting there at that service as we're just, he had a huge impact. We were the receivers, and it was very clear by that audience that he has changed lives. And I know he's changed me forever and many others as well. So I think coaches just really taking the time to be aware of the impact you have and how can you continue to get better is what we need to do. And as ADs, that's one of our jobs, is to make sure our coaches are having positive impact on kids.
Oh, wow. Really great stuff. Really appreciate you sharing today. And you need to know you're having an impact, for your kids and your coaches and for everyone listening on the podcast. One more time, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little more, what's the best way to get a hold of Suzanne Vick?
Email is going to be the best way, and that's svick@upsd83.org. S-V as in Victor, I-C-K @upsd83.org.
Suzanne Vick, Curtis High School, thanks so much for sharing again on Wednesday Wisdom.
I'm glad we could bring the sun in with you. It started out, it was pretty dark back there, and now it's a little light.
There you go. Okay,
I appreciate it.
For our listeners, we do Wednesday Wisdom every week. Suzanne's part of our team. We also have new content on the Educational AD podcast just about every single day. The video recordings of all of our interviews get uploaded to the Educational AD podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back again next time for more Wednesday Wisdom and the Educational AD podcast. Before we go, we want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack sponsor our Athletic Director Toolbox segment. Athletic surveys are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack also connects you with the 95% of the parents and the student athletes who really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the pros at Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them show you how to take your athletic program from good to great. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. More than 180,000 teams are using Huddle to help their teams play better using video and analytics. Huddle's the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras, analytics, and a whole lot more. Huddle's also built for every level of play, starting with club and youth teams all the way through high school and college programs, and even the pros use Huddle to play at the highest level. You're in pretty good company. Over 6 million users, including your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches of the teams you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and your program and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their experts. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. And we want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can find out more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your program by going to hometownticketing.com and talk to their experts. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Wednesday Wisdom. Remember, we do this every week with our panel of 10 experts, and we've got new content just about every single day on the Educational AD podcast. Thanks again, and please visit our sponsors and find out about their great products. See you next time.